do?
That's all I got.
This is good.
Open access committee, there we go. All right, I would like to call to order the March 7th, 2017 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And as always, we'll start with a roll call. I am Brian Farabee.
Jeff Bryant.
Jeff Lawrence.
Laura Stevenson.
All right. So we are continuing, right?
Yeah, he requested it.
That's good. Okay, but we need to open it. All right, so the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue a public meeting under the Versus of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider land clearing and remediation for 22 West Berlin Road, the Taylor property. Do we have an update?
He's requested another continuance and has stated that, well, he said in the email that the engineered plans are not yet done for today. So I sent in, thank you for requesting this continuance, and I sent him a follow-up email asking if the actual survey at least had been done.
Yeah.
Then he had responded to me.
Okay. There's not much we can do, really. We'll continue for now. And as far as we know, he's still progressing with Metro Heritage, right?
I'll be going tomorrow to follow up on that and then to let them know that he requested.
Which is probably best just to move to our next meeting. Okay. In which case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 22 West Berlin Road, the Taylor property, until our next meeting on Tuesday, March 21st,
Yeah.
right? 2017, at a time to be determined. Do I hear a
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So continue. And we have a few minutes until 7:15. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from February 7th.
And then just the notes from last meeting. Do you guys have to be approved? I don't think so. Just in case anyone has any questions. Hello. Changes from last draft, or the last one you sent around, right? It's the same.
He's, everybody's had a chance to look through them and make a motion that we approve the minutes for the February 7th, 2017 meeting as drafted and submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so approved. And do you want a motion on the notes from the last meeting?
I don't think we need a motion on it,
Right.
but if anyone has any clarifications or questions.
Is there something else? Okay, 8 minutes.
There's nothing too new. I said last meeting, I'm not sure if it's at February 7th meeting, but we have hired a GIS professional. She has completed a few of the maps. I was in correspondence with her today just to clarify a few things, because she didn't want to make the wrong map, obviously. But she almost has them all completed, and she believes she will have them done next week. So that's awesome.
That's excellent.
And we have basically a full draft of the open space and recreation plan. And so now we'll just keep cycling through and editing till the document's finalized.
That's excellent.
And then adding the maps. And then also,
Excuse me.
quickly, if you look in your packets, we had spoken previously, and briefly about a dog waste receptacle, not a receptacle, a dispenser, for the bags. And yeah, okay. So this is the company it's pretty professional looking, it's effective, and the cost is on there as well, I believe. Comes with refills, and it's a standalone dispenser.
Yeah.
And my first thought was to try it at, well, actually with the suggestion from Jeff as well, try it at one of our most used properties. And as we all know, Bower Springs is most used for dogs. So we figured maybe try one there, and then as basically just a prototype.
Yeah.
Or not a prototype, but as an
Is it-
example, see how
yeah, trial
effective it
station,
is.
yeah.
Also, my thought was to, and I mean, it's up to the commission with their input, but to not have the waste basket on it. See how that works, because you can order afterwards to attach it.
Yep.
And then if we decide this is effective and we do want to order more for other properties, we can order the waste receptacle at that point and attach it. But I think encouraging people to take it with them.
Yes.
Just following the typical, you're on conservation land, you take out what you bring in, whatever that may be. So that's my thought, I'm not sure.
There isn't a trash receptacle on Bower System.
There is. Yeah,
There is one.
there are two.
Okay.
Yeah, there are two.
So that's,
I was
Yeah,
driving out of my
they do. Yeah, they do. And you know, right now there's some type of makeshift mesh bag hanging off the kiosk where people are stuffing. You've seen it. Well, it's like
Stuff.
I've seen it before. I think it's popped up
shopping
from time to
bags.
time, yeah.
Yeah, so this is definitely a lot more streamlined, a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
It's the same dispenser that's not a town common, so there would be some economies of scale in terms of inventory bags. And like Rebecca had said, you can buy this without the receptacle on it, and it's
Yeah.
actually about $90 cheaper without that receptacle. So,
Yeah, yeah.
short money.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to figure in the cost of replacement bags.
Exactly. I think that's why the test is a great idea.
Yeah,
Because Bowers would be the highest use. We get a good idea of how many bags you need.
yeah, hopefully. Hopefully people actually
People use it, right?
Yeah, and that's been a constant problem. I mean, people have been talking about that for a long time, at least it's movement towards something.
Took about 2 months worth of bags, probably. You can get a little bit more bags.
And you hope most people bring their own too. I think it
Mhm.
helps to remind as much. And sometimes you forget to, or you think you have some in the car and you used your last one already. But so I mean, I think it's a good idea to try it. I think ours is the proper location.
That's where the most of the complaints about this come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually did receive, excuse me, got 2 more complaints too, over the weekend, and not really a complaint, but just a concern as well, so.
It's been ongoing there.
Yeah.
Speaking of buffers, did you figure out a place to put the canoes?
Did you end up, you Karen ended up talking?
Did we?
That one, yeah, I just wanted
No, I'm glad you did, yeah, we can, I haven't had out there.
Yeah. On the list.
If we were to purchase it, we don't really need kind of motion, right? That's just let me appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll do some research about install, right, whether it's something that we can have ourselves or through a package plan earlier, or something that we give it to them.
Yeah, we just have a creator,
Right.
you can't be too good, it always seems like it's the ones that are just have it, and it seems like everyone stays almost.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. So. All right, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public meeting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter.
Do we have to open it?
On the order of condition, no, wait, did we close it last time?
Yes.
No, then no, we don't. We just need to vote on it. Sorry.
It's okay. I figured.
I'm so excited to open it. No, it's all right, it's there.
Okay.
That's all right.
So this is the draft, I believe I emailed everyone a while ago. I think it was on the February 7th.
Yeah.
And as a reminder, like it says on the agenda notes, Natural Heritage did approve of it and had no issues. And it needs to review that, or review the NOI. So yeah, so it's the same. as
Yep,
the-
that went around. We closed it, we make a motion to sign. Right? To approve the order of conditions as drafted,
Yes.
right? Okay. In that case, I would like to make a motion that we approve the order of conditions for Dan Wells of Sawyer Road, creating the buffer zone, as currently drafted and presented.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. So passed. It's just the one page to sign, right? It's no dual.
Second.
Silence.
If possible, yes. That's right, yeah, you had to do this year.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
the
you put
first
your
one,
John
that's
Hancock
exciting.
on all sorts of things. You would later get blamed.
Yes. Russians listening to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I would say at least 2 dogs. Most people in town have 2 dogs. You know, I'm afraid. And my dogs would probably walk the trail a lot with other people. I would say at least 2.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, because the trail that goes behind my house, a lot of them have at least 2 dogs.
Right.
And
So
we're,
the
and we're
reason-
saying 1 per hand.
But a lot of times it's a single person walking with 2 dogs.
Right.
So, or was it 1 per hand or 1 per
One
house?
per hand.
Oh, okay.
2 dogs.
1 per hand. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone has more than 2,
Mhm.
they need to be leashed.
Otherwise, I'm not.
So I found that confusing though, this is item 3, the number of animals exceeds the allowed number of animals. It sounds like it's not allowed, but then it explains how it's allowed.
Okay, I can reword that though.
But that would be the intent. 2 dogs per person, if it exceeds that, we'd ask that all the dogs with that person.
2 horses per person, 2
Chickens.
chickens, anything else you might want there.
Goats.
Goats, sheep.
Unless they're working goats.
Right.
Was I?
Right. I wish we did that, I'm serious. Well, different conversation.
It's an interesting one to talk about that. Yeah, I guess.
So most of
Question
these
6.
also, were from the DCR's page. They have recently, I don't know how long these specific regulations were implemented on DCR property, but they are starting a permitting process for people who are commercial dog walkers, or professional dog walkers. So that's going to be interesting to see what their process is to actually accomplish that. But it seems that as far as the 1 per adult hand and the other regulations have been beneficial and productive. But, so I figured that was a good basis to start something.
I think number 6, we really have to figure out the first part of that.
Right.
And there's a typo in the last sentence, but that's right. That's
Number 6.
Oh, yeah.
to work.
Number 6.
Number 6, yeah, whether it's the, well, I suppose it could be all 3, conservation agent.
So it wouldn't be the last one.
Actually, I would think it's
Law
all 3
enforcement
because it
officer?
would just be depending on what time. You
Yeah.
know, on the weekend, it would obviously be animal control or law enforcement, or late in the evening, it was law enforcement or something.
I guess law enforcement generally goes without saying too. But yeah, rather than question mark, I just go over.
And
Yeah, you
the
can
last
exist-
couple are gonna be relative to, when I hear back from the DCR about the permitting.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah. These items, but I think they're fairly comprehensive.
And still, like I said, this is the first very rough draft, but I would rather get feedback, make a new draft, get more feedback and see.
Keep working it down.
I feel, I understand 5, but I had to read it a couple times to get it. It's
Okay.
just a really long sentence.
Sure.
break up, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's an important one.
It was good to state, yeah, I like how move those. Just because you don't like dogs.
Right.
It's not-
So Rebecca, when you pin down the detail on this, is this something that we vote on? Or is it just come to agreement on?
I, as far as I know, I'm discussing with Dawn how this formally works. We need to agree on it, and then I think, from what I understand, it has to be in the warrant,
Okay.
and then it goes, but in a separate discussion I had, it just needs to be approved by the selectmen. So I need to clarify which route it's gonna go. But as far as, I think we just need to be in agreement, because if it does need to go on the warrant, the commission will have to present that basically.
Okay.
Hmm.
But the language comes from this group?
Yep.
Like what- Okay.
You know, we have an existing sort of rules of conduct on conservation land, right? Like dawn to dusk, no fires, no camping.
Right.
That's what I was
Do you,
doing.
you want to have rules of animal conduct?
Yeah, this isn't gonna be the actual.
In the title, just to be specific about what the content. Just, I guess number 9, as far as groups and conservation property, you know, that was another, how many people in an
Oh, yeah.
organized group is too many? And is that truly specific just to animal shows, or is that specific to everything sort of in general? Whether it's a mountain bike club that's bombing through the property with 15 riders, or, someone that wants to have a get together. Do we address that here? Or is that a separate thing? Just keep it to, title it conduct for animals and leave it as is.
Yeah, I think maybe amending those other and adding that to it, specific to
Yeah.
group events,
Mm.
specific to people in recreational activities, and keep this as animal conduct.
Mhm.
That would be my opinion. Then it's clear, because that's the whole point of this, because just going out and speaking with, actually, I think since I've been here, at least 2 professional dog walkers, and there seems to be a disconnect in how to properly care for a conservation area, or be responsible as you're using the conservation area. So some individuals think they may be doing something beneficial, which they may be, but they're also forgetting about something else. So, for instance, you're picking up the dog poop in the middle of the trail, but, your dog goes in the woods. Which on conservation land, the point of conservation land is to protect the resources there, and if your dog's pooping in the woods, it's not protecting those resources, and we're supposed to be staying on the path so that the other resources are protected. So if your dog's going that way, leaving waste, and you're not picking it up, but then you have to go off the trail to go pick it up, it's sort of a disconnect.
Mhm.
That's, I guess, the only way I can explain it.
Mhm.
But is that anything different than a coyote or a fox or deer or whatever going?
No.
It all gets,
It does,
So
but we're
the
talking
difference is
about,
the amount.
yeah, use per acre here,
Mhm.
right? Throughput per acre.
Yeah.
How many deer is in, 5 acres? 1, maybe 2. Bottle Springs, it could be 30 dogs blowing through.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm certainly with you that it happens and there's wildlife that obviously goes wherever they wanna go.
Yeah.
There's no
Whether it's a
telling
trail
where
or
it
not a
is.
trail, yeah.
Right, but, I mean, it's the heavy use recreationally of the property.
Mhm.
And I'm a dog person, first of all, I will say that. I have 2 dogs and I love them. I would take them everywhere with me if I could, and I do take them out on the trails sometimes, but it's when, especially Bower Springs, is I've seen one person with 14 dogs, and that's just one individual with all the dogs, and then there's people just walking around with their pets, and that's fine, but that's not one wild creature, or even a pack of wild creatures running through the woods and defecating where they want. But I definitely, I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, it's kind of a.
Exactly.
It is.
That's why, I mean, this is, like I said, a very rough draft, and I want it to be ripped apart so that we're all clear and there's a better understanding of respectfully using conservation property and being able to share it with everyone and being able to still have wildlife. Because there's so many dogs, I don't think there's as many birds or coyotes or deer that you would see normally, but.
They're coming off the back.
Yeah, exactly, that's it.
Is there a rule that when you're walking a dog down the street and he poops in the, you have to pick it up anyway, right? It's a difference. You have to look after them, I suppose, just because it's in the woods, I suppose it just, I don't know.
If it was just,
Don't these people
I
that
don't think
want
you
to
want to
use?
admit it, you'd want it to be included here, regardless of, I don't think you'd want to assume that,
Yeah.
because people get there and they think, ah, it's wood, it's grass, it's fine. No, it's a good, I think it just belongs in here as a reminder.
Yeah.
At the top, allowable number of animals, this is commercial. Are we defining what commercial is or saying no
no,
commercial?
so that is something that I need to clarify and double check as well. I'm not sure if it's professional or commercial. I've heard it both ways. But basically saying you're creating revenue from.
Yeah, if you're getting paid for any of these, right.
But that can be a few words as well to describe that better.
So, it's 7:30 now. You okay?
Any other input at the moment for? Right. Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue a public meeting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider remediation of a paddock area in the wetlands and wetland delineation for 401 Main Street.
Good evening.
Evening, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry to put the plan on the desk tonight?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll just briefly recap why we're here. And as you said, it's the restoration of a paddock area, which was cleared in this area. We've proposed some mitigation plantings. We've also added the outline of some expansion of some other a goat pen and another pasture area. Since we've last met, we've had a couple changes. The pasture area here, we added a note specific to having the mature vegetation remain. When we spoke with the applicant, he mentioned that the fencing's fairly modular and it can be positioned. It doesn't have to be rectangular like that, but it can jog around trees, and that would be ideal for that area. We also received a letter from NHESP indicating that the project would not result in a take of estimated wildlife habitat or priority habitat of rare species. And we received a comment from DEP as well. They questioned if the seed mix that we specified in the upland area was appropriate for it. It was a seed mix that would tolerate sun better, and after looking at the site, we have switched it to a New England Logging Road restoration mix, which would be better for mixed conditions there. So very similar plantings still, just a change in the seed mix. The other major change was when we first came to you, we were anticipating frozen conditions to remove some of the timber waste at the edge of the area. That has not happened, so we've added a note specifying the hand cutting of the material in this area, moving it by wheelbarrow to, there's an existing path outside of the area, and then it can be moved outside the buffer zone and either properly disposed of off-site or chipped. So that would be the biggest change, and we made a note to make caution not to trample this area or compact it further. So I would envision with that is when the straw wattles are put in place, the applicant will let us all know. Rebecca and I, we can all meet out there and agree that it's ready to commence with that phase of the project, and then get that out of there before any planting takes place. So other than that, there really haven't been any changes to the plan overall. So I don't know if there's any residual questions from our last meeting that I can address, or.
Any questions about it? Any questions for people here tonight, please?
Yeah, at a previous meeting, it was discussed about parking and a concern of parking, and that the opportunity to put some delineation of parking areas. And there was a recent parking event several weeks ago that spilled over into Long Hill as well as Burnham Road, which is a safety issue. So the business owners are marketing corporate events, and a corporate event is usually a company, which is decent size. And we, again, the last 6 months have noticed parking has gone into all areas of the property, into the grass areas or whatever. So I thought it was a very good, novel recommendation from one of the commission members to actually have some delineation so that, A, we don't want to spill onto the roadways and park on both sides of the roadways if you know, an emergency truck couldn't get through, but also to protect some of the areas of just spillage onto the rest of the land. So I did watch the replay of the last session, and I guess it was presented to consider that, but then I guess the owner or the applicant decided not to do that. So I'd just like to understand from when the commission makes a recommendation of something they want to see versus something that was not implemented, because I still have concern. That's my first question. My second question is, when I was looking at the plan, I didn't see, is there a reason why like the septic, where the septic is not listed on the plan? Because it seems like that's a pretty important feature. And this is, it's a great piece of work that's going to now really get much more clarity on the land than there ever was. But to me, that's a big feature. I live right across the street, so I'd like to really know, you know, environmentally as well as everything, where the septic is. I didn't think I saw it on the plan.
So,
No, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think if we've ever seen, I was looking on these too. On this,
so the septic, I believe
well,
I believe it's the front right of the property.
right.
I was told
that.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
100 feet from the well.
Yeah.
So it's far removed from our project area.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really be relevant to plantings. If you were putting in a permanent structure, we would have to show defined offsets to that, but that's not something that's going to be required for plantings, which are, looks like they're about 150 feet-ish away from the alleged septic area. Septic plans are on file at the Board of Health, so they're
Okay.
certainly.
But typically, I guess, because there's a tremendous amount of features here, just with all the buffer zones, and I was just surprised that's a pretty important feature, I thought. But
So typically, just to clarify a little bit, so this is basically a wetland restoration planting or mitigation planting with other plans that, so typically when people propose something, they come in, file an NOI. Typically, we do see the septic plans because that is what they've already done. Typically, it includes the wetland delineation. If it is, so the septic's not required unless it's in the buffer zone, and something like a proposed new septic. So that's when it would be required to be shown on a plan, because they could just come in with a wetland delineation in terms of the parcel and showing the delineation. And that's also a determining factor as well, or a determining document as well. So it depends on what type of project it is, to what's shown and what type of plan is required or preferred. And in this situation where nothing is proposed to be done in that alleged septic area, it wouldn't be necessary to include on this plan.
Okay. So that, just to expand on that, and I completely agree, you know, and I know that there's some sort of Board of Health ongoing conversations, right? So if the septic system needed to be amended or expanded, and it was jurisdictional to the commission, and we'd get involved at that time. But because the existing septic field is not being disturbed or expanded or removed or replaced.
Okay. It just looks like the buffer zone on the right side by Burnham Road, that's really close to where the septic is, so it, you know, I take it for what it is, but it looks like it's really close, so I can't really tell if it historically is in the buffer zone, although again, it's kind of moved because it's not where the planting is.
So it is, as Seth was saying, unless I misheard you, it is on file with the Board of Health, the septic system with the house itself. So if that were necessary, just as Jeff had said, if they're updating it or reinstalling or not reinstalling. But anyways, something relevant to the septic system or building something on that side of the property, that's when I would go to Board of Health, double check everything, and we would most likely require them to have it present on the document that they're putting before us. The fact that it's close to, it may be close to the buffer or maybe a little bit in the buffer. It's a historic or a more historic building in town, so most likely it will be pretty close. But again, it's not relevant to what's proposed in front of us.
All right.
But if it were, then we would request it.
Mm-hmm. And as far as parking,
I think,
is there a precedent where, I mean, heavy machinery is one thing, right? And we're talking about oil and spillage and leakage.
Right.
So it's not without precedent that you wouldn't be running equipment within a buffer zone resource area. Is it a stretch to say we would not expect cars to be parking within the buffer zone?
I think it's a difficult property, and I did speak with the applicant about your concern, and I'll address your question with that as well. This was filed for a very specific remediation, and there were a lot of issues that came up that were somewhat removed from the area that we're proposing to alter. We're all aware that there's actions with other boards, and he's just reluctant to kind of muddy the water. He was afraid he was going to get an enforcement order, and so this was prepared to address that and remediate that area. As far as the parking, there is sufficient area for quite a few cars completely removed from the buffer zones as a whole, and the property historically has access both up Barnum Road, through the wetland buffer, and also off Route 117. Whenever I've been there, and I completely appreciate your concerns that there may be times I'm not there where there's more cars, the cars have been utilizing the driveway areas and more or less utilizing the areas around the trailers. I don't know if there'd be any precedent to restrict the use of properties, especially one that has some agricultural history where there's been machinery operating there for many years. So that's why it wasn't addressed. He didn't really want to bring that in, rather get this under there. And then if there's action, that whether it's the planning board, zoning board of appeals, somebody else makes us address that, then that's something that we can certainly put on there.
Two other things, just as an observation, I think it was yesterday, there was a bobcat or something moving manure piles around and things like that. There was regular toilet disposal company truck, which is a pretty heavy industrial truck that's coming to empty the toilets. So there is a fair amount of traffic that is industrial in nature, as well as, like I said, the spillage. It's been a little quiet lately because everything going on with the town right now, I'd say the last month or so, but historically the last 6 months, on average, it's 10 to 15 cars there during the weekdays, and they're parking all over the place. Because, yeah, maybe you could fit 5, 7, 8, 10, but when you get to 15, there's not enough room in the traditional driveway area, so they're parking up on the grass, around the left side of the barn, I see them. I see them parking, so they're parking wherever they can fit. Because if you just try to put 15 cars on there, it just doesn't fit in the driveway areas. Or you block the driveway and you can't get in or out.
So, I understand this is part of the project proposed, but because it is such a small corner on that left side that's in the buffer, that's on the driveway, the only thing that the commission may, if they wish, to include in the order of conditions relevant to this planting, would potentially be to limit the parking in the area or just not park in that area. But still have the access through there, so you can park in the driveway itself. But that's something, I mean, that's up to the commission. But I don't think it's necessary to take a route of exit away when that's the way the traffic flows, or entrance. I'm not sure which way they use or both ways, but if historically it's been used that way, I don't see it. As far as the commission goes, I don't see a point in basically shutting off that right of way. But I can see not parking in the buffer zone, because that would then reduce parking on the side of Burnham Road. It would also reduce a car potentially being right on the corner there, that maybe reduces visibility as you turn the corner, entering and exiting Burnham. But I mean, that's up to the commission, even that it's not really relevant to this project, but I mean, it's a possibility.
Wouldn't that be more of a safety issue?
Yep.
Would you be more comfortable?
Right, and that's what I mean.
Yeah, so I don't think I was asking for consideration of blocking off one of the rights of way.
No, it's not.
But just more,
Yes, I
just,
understand.
again, and it was something that the commission proposed of creating this delineation. So is this grass area versus is this would consider the driveway area? And that's gonna, if parking continues at 15 cars, the grass area is gonna go away.
Correct.
It'll become, dirt, and then it'll continue to grow. And I've just seen all different ways, shapes, and forms where people have parked. And so there's not a precedent for really bounding them in way, shape, or form. And if now a corporate event has 30 cars, where are they gonna park?
And I think that's, something that the law enforcement will have to deal with potentially in terms of keeping the main road open, and then the planning board as well. I was just saying, if something were to be proposed, I could see it being that way, but not, I don't think it's necessary in this situation.
So that's what I would compose by way of, like, say they do, just hypothetically, they can't do parking on the street. So then they would go to the planning board and say, well, we plan on having, so many cars in this area. Is that when we would potentially get involved then? Because you would examine that plan and say, not there, this is gonna have to, okay.
Yeah, and so that's when we take this and compare it, or if, it's planning board, but hypothetically.
Well, that's how it would get to us, it would be by way of
Yes.
planning board.
Yeah, and then we would take a look at it. Yes.
We could, and, it doesn't help exactly, but we could send a letter as a reminder to 401.
Oh, yeah.
Along with this, just as a reminder that while,
This is the buffer area.
while you're allowed to, use the paved surface, the existing paved surface of the driveway, that parking in the buffer zone is not acceptable at any point in time. Just to remind them of that, and then if it becomes a problem, we see cars are parked in the buffer zone, we can go from there. My guess is they're gonna have to deal with another board as far as trying to figure out parking. If they're proposing some sort of parking lot or plan. And then we'll get kicked back to us.
That would more likely come to you as a notice of intent anyway.
Yeah.
The nature of the buffer zone property. unless they were able to position that entirely out of the buffer zone, which would address your concern.
Right.
And boards as well.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is that basically until they propose something, it's not something we can really act upon, but we can let them know that, until you because nothing has been proposed, it's never appropriate to park in the buffer zone. Like, you're just not allowed to.
Right.
So
Park
you're-
cars in there right
We will
now.
send him a reminder. He obviously has this plan, so he's aware of the buffer zones. And with a letter consisting of what Brian just stated, that's when, if there were an issue in the future, or if there was continued degradation of the buffer area, that was extensive, then you go a different route and you take more action on it. However, right now, considering that hasn't happened, there's not really anything we can condition or enforce.
Yeah, and especially with this regarding this project too, which deals with this on a very specific area.
Okay, so your original it was more of a recommendation to put some delineation. It wasn't, we really want you to see you had some delineation for parking as a recommendation.
It was a,
I want to go back and look at exactly what
I mean,
was said. I'm trying to remember.
I know what was said, and it was simply, we're looking at this plan, there were concerns raised. We had stated that there are a lot of other board issues regarding other boards, not necessarily directly relevant to this commission in this project that's presented before us. And this meeting is specific to this project. And it was stated that that was something that could remediate that issue. But I told another member from the neighbor group that that wasn't requested or required. So I had confirmed that with someone else as well.
Any other questions on this one?
How long will this take to do this?
Well, the actual plantings, I assume you're gonna request them to be monitored for 2 growing seasons.
Yes.
So that would, the 2 growing seasons, ideally, the order of conditions is issued and the plantings are able to be installed this spring, so that would start the clock on the first one.
And if they die, what happens? You replace it?
Yeah, the certificate of compliance would probably demonstrate that there was a 70% or better survival rate on it, and if there wasn't, then it would either be a partial certificate or we extend the order and replant it.
So when you plant the plants, you just use the soil that's around there.
That would be
You're not gonna bring
inspected.
in
This filing came to you during the winter. All this work was done under snow cover, so it was not ideal for picking the exact planting location. So we will certainly inspect it when the straw wattle goes in, and if there needs to be an amendment, we come back to you and tell you why.
Rebecca, is there any other questions up here? Did you have any other thoughts on this?
No, I think as far as the replanting goes, it's pretty self-explanatory. The area was cleared, now it's being replanted. As Seth was just explaining, has the 2-year success period or monitoring period for success. And within that time, if things fail or if issues arise, that's when those are dealt with. Otherwise, there's no certificate of compliance. That leaves a lien on the property with an open order. So, and I am confident that this is going to get done effectively. But, yeah, I don't really have any questions or concerns relative to this.
Right, and we're not expecting any additional work within the buffer.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Nothing proposed now.
Right. Without a separate file.
Yep.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure what was going to be
go ahead and close it now, right? Were we all, everybody's comfortable with how it's set up to go now? Okay. Then I'm just gonna make a motion that we close the public hearing for, the NOI for 401 Main Street regarding remediation of paddock area and wetlands and wetland delineation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So closed, and then we'll vote.
Okay, has the order already been drafted, or is it?
No.
I will, it's in the works right now, I wasn't sure what I would have to add tonight.
Sure.
So figure out, would you like me to email you? a copy?
Be great, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate all your time, so.
Sorry. All right, the Golden Conservation Commission will now consider a request for determination under the Brisbane Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider proposal of Blueberry Field expansion for 131 Green Road. How are you?
It's fine.
Got the same thing. Yeah.
So, more blueberries.
Yeah. It's all good things. So, was everyone, or, I know Karen and Brian wrote today,
Yes.
okay? I was out on another day. And the area had, I mean, it had blueberries in it already.
Yep.
And the field is maintained, is mowed, it's in a previously disturbed area. And they are certified organic blueberries, correct?
Certifiable, they're not.
Certifiable, excuse me. And then also you had mentioned a very minimal netting potentially to go over, as well.
Yeah, right, which is,
Oh, perfect.
so it would be 4x4 inch posts, 10 foot around the perimeter, and then you put the net on it, and the season you could just, they're on steel wires, you just push it to the end and bundle it, and they go away for the winter.
Talked about it a little bit today. It's non-permanent, right? The poles come out, so it's a non-permanent structure.
Poles-
It's completely
poles don't
separate.
come out. They
They
can
don't
come
come
out.
out, they can come out. They don't come out
Hopefully they
seasonally.
don't.
They stay in the ground, yeah, but,
Very large
you know,
birds
it's
not
going by.
soon.
yes, yes. If need be, they can come out. It's permeable application.
And there are 50 bushes in there now, and it's just to add another 50 bushes because the size of the netting is such that I have to spend that much money, so I have to
Yeah.
put as many bushes.
Karen, did you have questions, thoughts, concerns?
Not really, I mean, it seemed pretty lightweight, I mean, the whole operation there seemed like it was pretty light touch, so. I guess if I did have a question, it would just be about, when you say that it's organic, just what exactly does that imply as far as how you're caring for them? I just.
That's the other folder I meant to bring. I kept thinking that I wanted to bring something. And to be organically certified, you need to keep records of exactly what you put on there, what you put into the soil, and where you purchased it. And it has to be, all those things have to be on a certain list of approved products that are, and it's mostly things like crushed rock, manure, lime, sulfur. That's pretty much what I put on there. Sulfate of potash, I put on there. label those blueberries as certified organic blueberries.
But you get no insecticides or anything like that?
No. Well, there are certain pesticides that are acceptable, but there's a specific list of what's acceptable. You can't just spray. And what's on the list is been carefully evaluated, for concerns such as would it also kill insects that were beneficial? Thanks.
Sorry.
And you don't want to use something like that. Some of the sprays do, and even some organic sprays might kill beneficial insects, but you can only use them maybe once or whatever. For example, on potatoes, I don't know of anything on blueberries that you.
And lots of the timing too when you spray. It's very regulated when you spray, whether it's organic or commercial.
Yeah.
When you spray things, follow the timing.
Right. I do have one question about when I market them. Ideally, I'd like to be able to do a pick your own kind of thing and open it maybe 3 mornings a week or something like that. And that would mean, I don't know how it works. I don't know anything about how that would work, because here's the driveway into a multiple drive with 5 houses on it. And if there's not really space for parking on that drive, there's not space for parking on Green Road. I can't imagine that there'd be any more than 2 or 3 cars there. I'd have to probably speak with my neighbors about, somebody owns this little tent strip all the way down here because of the hammer and lot, right? And so they'd have to, cars would have to maybe park on that. But I'm told that you do have to have access to your property. And in other words, that common drive is goes, moves from one property to another. So I don't know how that works, or if that would all be permissible, or what. Or if that's something I should just think about.
I think it's definitely something to think about.
It might not be a jurisdictional issue with us.
Yeah.
If you want to run it as a small business.
But this is wetlands that's here.
Yeah.
Right? So you were
So,
talking
yeah,
about parking,
yeah.
so I don't know.
If you were staying on the driveway.
But the blueberry season's so short, it's not a 365-day
Yeah.
Right.
operation. You're talking a short
3
window
weeks.
of production. So I wouldn't actually see 5 cars parking, even a day or whatever. It would be something
Yeah,
of
hopefully
Yeah.
5
concern.
Right.
And a
Not like
relatively
more like
small
the one
yield
around,
too, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's a good size yield, but it's relatively small. You're not gonna have hundreds of groups coming through.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of feel that out to see what would work and what wouldn't work.
No tour buses.
No?
I
Very
see.
small. My goal is just to take a little bite out of my taxes.
It doesn't hurt. So I would say think a little bit more about that one. Let us think a little bit more of that one. Yeah. But as far as the project as it's proposed now for the netting and the expansion of the current delivery fields, is there any other questions, concerns? Anybody here? Do you have thoughts?
I do have a question, and admittedly, I didn't have a chance to go out and look at the site. Is there irrigation, existing irrigation?
I do.
And is that being expanded as part of the additional?
There's a barn
plantings?
right here, and what I'm using right now is for irrigation is I have a 350-gallon tank that used to be a milk container,
Sure.
and it's on the back of the barn, and so that runs water to there. And
Is it, it's so
It's a rain barrel.
It's a
Right.
drip, drip
Yeah,
irrigation?
it's actually a rain
It's
barrel,
drip,
yeah.
okay. Gravity fed
And
drip.
then I
Yeah. It's beautiful, yeah. It's a nice setup, I will
Yeah.
say.
And is it rainwater that you're capturing, or is it?
Mhm, yeah, off the roof from that belt line.
Okay,
Thanks for asking.
thank you.
Alrighty.
Did you have any concerns?
No, I
Okay.
actually loved it.
Yeah, I had no problem with it at all. In that case, what am I looking to do? Is it a negative? I can't remember. My
Yep,
negative 3. It's
negative 3.
right?
Yep.
I would like to make a motion that the Conservation Commission has, wow, determines, approves a negative 3 determination for the request for determination for 131 Green End Road, Blueberry Field expansion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So approved.
We'll sign it for next meeting as well.
Alrighty, thank you very much then.
Yeah, no, thank you. Good luck.
I'll see you.
Right.
So now we have an informal meeting about a deck extension on a previously disturbed area that is, oh, thank you, that is presently lawn. It's done.
No W1.
This is just a chat. Hi,
Hi.
I'm Kate Paiute.
Chris.
50 Wheeler Road. I'm not sure what you guys have in front of you, I don't know if there's a plan. You should just have this image.
Yep.
What we're looking to do is, we've got, I haven't measured it, 8x6 deck, but barely big enough to put a grill on. And we're looking to expand it. We have some drawings that our contractor has done. I apologize for the fact that they are literally a photograph that's been texted.
Go ahead.
So across, it's showing the length of the house here. We're expanding it several feet long, ending at the bulkhead on the left side here. So I think it's set as 27 feet long, 10 feet wide, and then a lower tier that's 10 by 20, and then the stairs going down. It's all on cleared land. The tree lines are over here.
And in between the stairs would be like a stone or gravel little patio area.
So that's pretty much all we're looking to do, and just wanted to make sure that we were good to go. We're not expanding into any uncleared areas or getting anywhere near the
Over
tree lines.
existing one.
Yeah.
And this is a vernal pool, correct?
Yep,
Yep.
as I mentioned to you, up until the most recent years where we had very little rain, and we've been here for now 11 years, 10 years, it had always remained full. So we know that one's definitely, some of the side pools on the other side of the house,
Right here. We have a
they're
season.
wet for maybe 2 weeks, if that, and then they dry up. But the other one, I know there's turtles and salamanders and whatnot, because we've seen them come onto our property.
Where does your driveway come in off of? Is it
The
the
old-
full, it really is.
The old
I-
road is
I was
down
looking
here.
to see, I'm like, it's gotta cut in somewhere. Oh, wow.
Quarter mile to
Yeah.
the
Some
road.
of you may have accidentally
God
been
bless you.
down it, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
So that's the
Okay.
first thing that we're looking to do, and we're looking to do that shortly, as soon as the ground thaws. And the other thing that we would like to do, I'm not sure if it'll be this year or next year, is we'd like to do some fencing to contain our dogs. And what we would be thinking of doing basically is,
Right along here,
Mhm.
you can see, that's basically right in front of our house, right here. We would want to do like a picket or vinyl fence for a couple reasons. Number one, there's some highway noise, but number
Yeah.
two, and which is more concerning to me, is at least a couple times a year, I get someone coming off of 495 and knocking on my door to use my phone, and I feel bad that they're stuck on the road, but I really don't wanna
Yeah,
encourage people
yeah.
to keep coming off the road into my property.
So we'd like to do vinyl across, this is our driveway.
Yep.
I don't even see our driveway here, honestly.
Yeah,
But we would do it in front of our driveway on our front lawn.
yeah, from here to here, and then chain link it along here. You know, so, because we want to give animals a pass-through, and we figure if we block it from the immediate front where passing cars would say, oh, there's lights, we can go see them. That would be enough. And
And
then-
we'd also like to do vinyl in the back because there's another common driveway that accesses several different houses. So we would do privacy here and just in front of our house, and we'd like to chain link.
Connected.
And again, the privacy fence would be short here again, because, you know, we don't
It's only
need,
so much.
Yeah.
It's just the one.
yeah.
And I'm assuming it's all buffer zone, like as far as the yard goes, probably all, not all,
Yeah,
but
oh,
big
yeah.
chunks of it are, yeah.
Yeah.
Turtles digging in our front yard every summer. and-
Yeah. Also, I did, and I just double checked, the fence is so long as it's providing, or not preventing wildlife movement, you wouldn't need a permit for that.
Okay.
But that would be something, if a permit were needed, we would include just in a sub-note, or, even just, we'd send a letter reminding you. And I would also check with, Natural Heritage, if you haven't already talked with them, in
Yeah.
terms of what type of fencing they would prefer, and see if this is, as I think we spoke
Anyway,
earlier.
you can just,
Oh, yeah. It's in HESP under Mass Wildlife.
NHESP.
Did the site actually have to file? I don't remember. Or through
Well-
Natural Heritage, were there any endangered species there?
So it did have the overlay, but I've talked to Natural Heritage before when it's included, and they've said it's okay.
No, I just didn't know if they, Natural Heritage even got involved in this. Are there any listed species out there?
I didn't see it, but I will double check.
Because this project was, I'm gonna say 95?
Yeah.
It was
sounds
built on
right.
95?
94, yeah.
Yeah.
I can double check and see if they had some input in the file. But, yeah, so that would be where they would weigh in on that.
Do you have any intentions of putting a roof on the porch, or is it gonna be open?
Open.
It'll be
Open.
I like the stars.
You know, mosquitoes.
They don't bother me.
They're funny.
Ticks, on the other
They're
hand.
already out right now.
Other questions?
I had a couple of questions,
Go ahead.
just as far as the construction of the deck, right? The entire deck is within the buffer zone, and it looks like you're doing some 8-inch concrete footings. Is your contractor planning on using heavy equipment in the area to dig those holes, or is that something that they're planning to dig by hand?
We haven't talked to them about it, but they would have to drive across our septic system to get heavy equipment in there, and we'd have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So,
So is it safe to say that they're gonna
I think it's safe to say,
dig
yeah.
the footings by hand then?
I'm guessing. Yes.
Okay. Is there an area in your property, maybe closer to the driveway, that materials will be stockpiled
Probably on the driveway.
on the driveway? Okay.
Yeah, it'll be on the, either on the driveway or even right on our front walk, because that's, you know, that way, what grass we do have on the front lawn, it won't, won't die.
It's a tiered deck, so the second tier is closer to the ground
Yes.
By a couple steps.
by a couple of steps.
Yeah.
How high is the entire structure off the ground?
It'll be a little more than 6 feet, right?
Yeah, because it's not a walkout basement, so, you know, it's only about 6 to 6.5 feet
Okay.
at the highest point.
Okay, the area underneath, is that enclosed in for anything, or it'll just be open?
We were planning on closing it off just so that we could store things rather than dragging things into our basement, but I mean, if that's an issue.
Yeah, we don't have a shed or anything, so we'd
Yeah.
like to store a tractor and snow blower and that sort of
I
stuff.
totally understand.
Yeah.
So we would have crushed gravel,
That was my next question.
and then ask them to put some kind of material under the deck that would,
That was my next question. So I guess the only concern would be, you know, even though you're already on disturbed earth, is, you know, creating any additional erosion, right? It's starting
Yeah.
to channel stormwater in one direction that picks up sediment, pollutants, and
Yeah,
brings them right into the lowest area, which is
Yeah.
typically where the resource area
Yeah.
is. So,
we also need to be careful because the back of our lot is where our drinking water comes from,
Yeah,
so
right.
I don't want anything going down that way either.
yeah, I totally understand. So I am, I guess, vaguely familiar with those systems that hang underneath the joist of the deck, right, to create some type of, it's like a suspended roof almost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's,
I don't know enough about it, but conceptually.
yeah, I mean, what we had said, or what we suggested to him is, you know, use like a corrugated plastic underneath and just angle it a little, and basically it's just gonna dump the water, rather than allowing it to fall through the deck, it'll just come out on the side of the deck.
Okay, so like, which direction would the water be sheeting in if we're looking at this plan?
Well, our house is here, this is our house where it ends here, so it would all run
Towards
towards,
the steps?
yeah.
Okay. Is would it be, I guess, agreeable, you know, to create, and you say you're doing crushed stone, just to bring the crushed stone out to create an apron so that the water that is
Oh,
is sheeting is
I had
landing on the
actually
stone?
Yes.
Thought of that, because,
Rather than creating like, you know how you see sometimes a house doesn't have,
Dry wells.
gutters,
Yeah.
right? And it-
We had that
create
issue at our house a
Yeah.
couple of years ago.
That erosion sort of channel.
yeah,
there.
and that's one of our projects for up front on the other side, because everything comes out the gutters and splashes down and onto the house and everything, which isn't good for the house, so we're doing that there, and I had actually planned when we have them put the posts in, to take a couple inches extra off the top so that there's a little more gravel and sand to allow for drainage, because our backyard in the spring tends to be wet to begin with. So
Okay.
I want the water to have a place
Place to go.
to slowly seep in,
Okay, so
as opposed to rush off.
right?
About like 6 inches or something.
Conceptually,
Is that-
enough to capture some of that water.
Yep.
I don't know if those systems even facilitate the use of gutters or not, I have to be honest with you. So it's almost like capturing.
I can tell you that my father's
Capturing
that he
sheet
built
water.
did, he actually built gutter systems into his when he did.
At the bottom, underneath the deck.
Yeah, to run it off to his
the
other
outside.
downspouts, yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's a conversation you can have with your contractor, but with the intent of not creating a bunch
Yeah.
of, like sheeting erosion type,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Question. Intent to clear the snow off of it?
I mean, we clear the deck, but I mean,
Well, our firewood pile is out here, so we at least need a good half of it cleared in order to access our firewood, but
Okay,
I suppose it would depend on how much snow it is.
okay. I cleared my deck with my snow blower, and I ended up
Yeah.
throwing it like 60 feet.
I wasn't
Would you-
even planning on
You'd be
doing it
shoveling,
that
you'd be
far.
shoveling it? or-
I'd shovel it, or I'd get one of those little handheld ones that throws it maybe 10 feet.
Okay.
At most,
It'd be
Um,
heavy to carry.
yeah, at
downstairs.
most in the yard,
You
I
got
do
that
have,
belt.
I do have a larger snow blower, but I would do like one strip to the wood pile and that would be it,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, with the only, you know, the only concern, introducing a bunch of, snow into the resource area.
Yeah.
Right? Thanks.
Yeah.
That's my question, thank you very much.
commission has a few concerns, so it may be beneficial to have a request for determination. I don't know if a notice of intent is necessary, but that's up to the commission to determine, because it is very close to a resource area, but that's why I wanted to have this informal meeting to see what the commission would like, what the project entailed, so that we can direct it the correct way.
I mean, I'd be interested in your other thoughts. I would think it's more of an RDA than an NOI. It almost sounds like.
Why?
It's more of a quick request for determination, based on the scope of the project. I mean, it may not be,
Are you getting a permit, for the deck construction?
That's why we're here, because I think you guys need to sign off on it.
Yeah.
From the building department, are you getting a permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's, so,
We figured start with you guys, because if you guys don't like where it's gonna be with regards to wetlands, it's kind of a moot
How old is
point.
the house?
so,
It's
Since
94.
94.
Have you been to the site?
And the current deck is close to falling off, so the sooner.
so also, yeah, if
Do you need to look at?
the commission would like to do a site walk, we can do that. To answer your question, in terms of the request for determination versus notice of intent, and this is just in looking at the regulations and looking at the project, because in understanding that it is in close proximity to the resource area and in the buffer area, it's still in a previously disturbed area, that's lawn. So if it weren't disturbed, then you would do the NOI. Because it is.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, you-
Why not that?
Right, you can
Because it's
still
already been
impose
disturbed.
conditions under the request for determination.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, that would make sense, but also in NOI, you can have more extensive conditions as well, so it just depends on what the commission deems it as and how invasive they see it.
It would seem to be prudent to try to do a site visit too, if it's possible to get out there.
Yeah.
Which I think might give us a better idea too, if it is an RDA or an NOI. But also, I'm sure you guys want to move it along relatively quickly. Would it make sense we try to get out there before the next meeting?
She has a couple of site visits coming up on March 14th.
Yep.
So maybe
Yep.
you should just
Add it to the list.
add to the list.
I'm
Water
all
out
for-
of boots.
I'm all for that. If that's possible, that would be next Tuesday night. We're looking at times, just going out to sites, that we have a couple of other sites we have to get out on, just to come out and take a look and see where it is exactly that we're talking about, where it's going. If that's possible. we can
Yeah,
come
absolutely.
Next Tuesday. Is it our?
How late is that on Tuesday? I'm just thinking about sunset.
Moving the clocks forward this
Yeah,
weekend.
daylight savings this weekend.
So you'll have till about 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you wanna do.
I'm
What's the
home
first one
most
at
days,
3?
so I mean,
I know our first site visit is at 3 or 3:30. You said you can do after 2.
Yeah, we could go earlier, but.
So if we can't go later, maybe 2:30? I'm not, I mean, it's up to
early
you
for you
guys.
guys,
He's home.
Okay.
yeah, let me just make sure I don't have to have kids anywhere.
Oh, it's fun to have around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they can come along.
Hmm.
hang out.
What do
We're
you
talking
think?
about next Tuesday.
After school
Huh?
activities.
We're talking
gonna
next
go
Tuesday?
on.
Yes.
Between,
Yeah.
so Bailey has play practice until 5:30, but, between 5 and 5:45 I would need to leave, but I mean, you guys are welcome to walk my property, my oldest daughter would be there, and I'd tell her to keep the dogs in.
Thank you. Yeah. Because we might be able to, once we're out there, have a better idea of the best way to go about filing it.
Yeah.
But that'll at least give us some time, and Rebecca will be in touch too.
Yeah, absolutely.
what you should do before the sidewalk though is just put corner posts up, so where the porch is going, how far it's coming out.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's really.
And also, for the fencing, you know, you have to do all the fencing, but just kind of like a starting point of roughly where you're gonna be putting, you know, just a couple stakes in the ground, just so we have a visual.
Okay. You're talking about the more obstructive
Privacy
fencing
fence.
as,
Right,
as
yeah.
opposed to the chain
If
link?
it's in the buffer zone, just, you know, whereabouts, you know, you're looking to have it.
Okay.
Sort of roughly there.
Okay.
But definitely the porch, the
Alrighty.
2 corner posts.
I'm just thinking of, because what's in the buffer zone is gonna be
I don't know.
all,
what buffer zone
all
is.
chain linked.
Mm-hmm.
The privacy is basically just in the previously disturbed areas, because, you know,
Yeah,
Well, we'll
just
show
like,
them.
just
Yeah.
like a corner post.
okay.
Yeah, you have to do the whole, just do the
Alright.
corner post, yeah,
It
just
sticks with everything.
visual.
Yeah, I think just, sticks you bang, so
Alrighty.
you have an idea.
Alrighty.
As far-
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can, I know a general idea of where the property line is here, so I mean, again, when we actually go to do a fence, we'll have to have someone come out
Yeah,
and actually mark things, but yeah, I can
give
give
a general idea.
general idea.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right. All right, well, we'll see you next
Thank you
Tuesday.
so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Are we doing 2:30 or after 4:30?
I'm fine either way.
Yeah, I thought that we had one at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
To that, yeah, so, I don't know how far you have to drive to get to where we get to, so. I'm just following your truck around to these points, I use any excuse to take the afternoon off.
So I think we can go either way then.
Either way.
Earlier or late.
Earlier or late.
Is there
Well,
something
it depends on
that's
your
better for
schedule.
you, or?
I need to pick
Going
up
to
another
after
Yeah.
To
5.
5? So early is probably better, right?
Yeah.
All right.
But just take pictures.
Okay.
Pictures
Take lots
is
of
okay.
them. So 2:30 then? Is that?
Shoot for, that's fine by me.
Is that what?
Yeah.
So,
It's on Tuesday next week.
Yes.
Correct.
March 14th. Our next meeting date is
21st, after the 21st, or the 21st?
No, the 21st does.
Uh,
Usually chief can make a motion to confirm it and then.
Great.
That's fine.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to confirm that the next meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission will be held on Tuesday, March 21st, 2017. Most likely here in the Houghton Building.
It is.
Most likely.
That was a motion to do that?
In a
Yes.
second?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We shall have a meeting on the 21st. Anything else, Carla?
Let's get awfully darn noisy. No,
We had a
it must get awfully darn noisy.
concern from the neighbor at Bower Springs. Her father actually built that campground and property and used to own it. She had just called, just noting that she would prefer to put up fencing, but she is unable to because she would like to get some chickens, so she's just getting some mesh netting. But there are, I guess there's always been an informal agreement that her property goes halfway into one of the entrance driveways of the actual conservation land parcel, which I'm still looking to double check.
What property is this? I missed the beginning, I'm sorry.
The yellow house. One of the properties abutting the entrance, Power Springs.
Okay.
And so the neighbor's concerned, because I guess in the past, she's had chickens, and she's had problems with the dogs chasing the chickens and getting after them. So she just wanted us to be aware that she may be getting chickens again, and that's why the mesh netting is up. In case that's seen on the property. Not on the property, but next to the property.
Okay.
Um,
We're not agreeing that she can have a fencing in the conservation area for her
No.
children, so.
No.
Okay. I'm
This is
sorry, I
on
missed
her-
the first part.
No, this is on her property.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's more concerned about the dogs coming to Bowers
Yeah.
Place,
To
right?
chase your chicken.
Right,
Yes.
which hopefully we're moving
But
towards
they're
addressing
also
by
on leashes.
formalizing. Well, that's
Right,
what we're,
exactly.
we're
That's
kind of
what I
moving
was-
to address a lot of
Yeah.
her concerns and other people's concerns by trying to formalize those.
But there are also a lot of, I've only been there once, there are a lot of dogs there.
It's a lot.
Not like a, oh, there is, everybody goes there.
At times.
Bring our dog there.
It's a use-specific property.
Is that what it's called? I mean, for real?
No,
No?
it's
Well,
not
it's-
technically.
It's evolved into that.
Yes, yes, yep. And then also, Big Night is coming up.
Yes, it is.
It hasn't happened yet, but watch out for Big Night. The salamanders and amphibians will be crossing hopefully tomorrow.
I think tomorrow
It-
is the shot, yeah.
it may have been
60.
tonight, but I don't think it's warm enough, and I think it's a little bit too dry of a rain.
Crossing what, 117?
Well, parts
Well,
of Green Road,
Green
there's a
Road,
Road,
few,
River
oh.
Road, Burnham,
we
there's a
have
few
2
different
or 3
areas.
major areas, yeah.
People go out there and
And
Yeah,
don't
help them
scurry them
across,
across, yeah, or at least try to help the traffic.
Yeah. So that's coming up, so if you see people outside, stop,
Yep.
don't be a vicious driver. And be cautious, because most likely there will be kids out there helping.
who organizes this?
Rhoda does, and who works with her, I'm trying to think.
Liz did, I did this year.
Yeah, Liz, Carol was instrumental too when she was here, yeah. Yeah, they look for volunteers, she has a listserv, we've done it with the kids
Yeah.
in years
She has a call
past.
list that
Yeah,
you'd like to be on it.
yeah, you can go out and,
I thought that I did in Vermont once.
Nice.
yeah.
And then
Like
also
standing
we
watching
have,
lizards cross the street,
Bolton Local has birthday coming up, which I will have a table at for the
Okay.
conservation department, and
Where is that
also
taking place?
town common.
It's taking place in Hong Kong.
And it's on April 29th, and we have a reading, hosted reading at the library on March 22nd, which is World Water Day, and then a reading on an early Earth Day, which is April 20th, at the library as well. I'm not sure if there's any other news or updates, but. That's it, I think. For his things, but.
It's been quite a month. I haven't had Concom, that's when I haven't really responded. But, yeah, it's kind of fallen off. Maybe everything else good family photos I want to share, poetry, anything. All right, in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we close the March 7th, 2017 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We are so closed.
I went to the Board of Appeals.